Now, more than 700 investigations have been launched in 18 months after the Metropolitan Police's report a rogue copper went live in London. It's now being rolled out nationally, and heaven knows how many complaints they're going to get now. With me in the studio, former Metropolitan Police Superintendent Leroy Logan, barrister Andrew Eborn, former police officer Nusrit Mehtab joins me down the line as well. Very good evening to all of you. Leroy, this has obviously been quite a successful thing that the Metropolitan Police have done. Some people think it shows that they're kind of moving in the right direction to try and out some rogue coppers, but that's quite a lot of people to have been turned in by the public. And the worry I would have is that there might be people out there in the streets who go, I know, we'll dob this guy in it, and that'll be the end of his police career for a few months while they're investigating it.
Well, I think that they're going to try and ensure that there's no sort of vexatious litigants that are just continually complaining. But I think what we have here is that the rot has really set in with the Met. It's been going on for years. Mark Riley's trying to get to terms with it. He seems to be doing things in the right way. I wouldn't say it's a success yet, but he's taken the poison challenge from Crimestoppers Dick, who allowed the culture to get more toxic. It ensured that there was a lot more of a hostile environment. There was no whistleblowing strategy, and the checks and balances of supervisors, inspectors and sergeant to hold their officers to account, maintain that critical distance. So there was ensuring that those officers were nipped in the bud if they had those tendencies to be a predator, sexist, racist, misogynist, etc. But, you know, it seemed like they felt they're untouchable because the person at the top, Crimestoppers Dick, was saying, well, I'll defend you regardless. And things have just snowballed to the extent that it seems like the whole barrel's rotten, and not just
they
a
couldn't
couple
get
of
rid
bad
of they couldn't get rid of people, could they? Nusrit, let me come to you, because at the end of the day, what we're seeing Sir Mark Rowley doing is making a lot of noise about police officers getting abuse online. He's put out a request for some more money so they can all get paid a bit more, but he doesn't appear to have actually made that much difference. I mean, Leroy's right. He was brought in to improve things because under Crimestoppers Dick they'd gone pretty far, but has he improved anything?
Unfortunately, Mike, no.
That's what I thought.
You know, made the right noises, the right rhetoric. I'm going to do this and that. You know, where are we? What changes have been brought in? Now, this corruption hotline, was brought in November 2022 in response to Sarah Everard and Wayne Couzens and Carrick and other things that were going on. Now, we say that 728 people have been reported to this hotline. How many of those have got sacked?
Right.
How many predators and monsters have they identified from this hotline? I know it's been rolled out nationally and it's considered a success, but what does success look like? For me, I need more answers to that. So back to your original question, no, he hasn't. Is he the right man to lead this? Does he, you know, is the problem so big that it just is not happening? And certainly setting up this hotline, for me, is dealing with the symptoms. It's not dealing with the causes. The causes are quite clear. Vetting needs a radical rehaul, and we know that there was a review last month which actually said that, and prior to that. Recruitment needs to be looked at. Leadership, because the mechanisms within the Met are broken to identify these individuals. They got in, they were allowed to come in through the front door. They're in. How do we identify them? There clearly isn't a mechanism. They have to set up this hotline, and it's done to almost placate the public and get them off the front pages. In fact, it's not going to be success. It's not going to happen. No. They will still be on the front pages because what's needed is real radical reform of policing.
I think so, and I think, Andrew, that's going to have to happen nationwide, isn't it? Because we know there's problems in places like Nottingham. Manchester's been in special measures. You know, Newcastle police have been in trouble. You know, all around the country there is a problem. And Nusrit's right. I think the problem is that the police should already know, shouldn't they, who these people are? They shouldn't be sitting there protecting them and needing members of the public to let them know.
Yeah, well, without a shadow of a doubt. And we always say, or I always say, that trust comes in on foot and leads on horseback.
I do. You say that almost every show.
I do, because it's
in fact, I might have to ban it soon. You know.
I sell the T-shirts as well. It's got to go. Yeah. That's the reality. And what's happened.
You'll be going out on a horseback.
Trust is at an all-time low. And as you just put a bit of clarity on this, the statistics are slightly different to what they've said. It's 3,000 complaints, of which 700 have gone to the next stage, leading to investigation. And you're absolutely right. We now need to work out how does that filter down. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. how many effectively are going to be looked into? And there's also that other question which came as a result of the report. You need to check about the pre-vetting of people before they get to the force in the first place.
Well, that's what we don't know, and that's what I meant to get from Nusrat. I don't know whether you know, Leroy, that whether the recruitment practices have changed, whether or not anyone that Mark Rowley said he wanted to get rid of has been got rid of, because there was a problem, wasn't there, before, where it was taking a very long time to get people out of the force, even people who had criminal records. So is that speeded up? Has anything happened?
Yeah, but they speed it up, but it's so complex, you know, because, you know, as police officers were royal appointees, so they're not subject to employment law. Right. So there's all sorts of hidden complications. And then it's created this situation where the federation that supports a lot of these officers and Superintendents Association are able to use the system and delay things. I'm not saying they're doing it intentionally. They're there to protect their members, but at the same time, they're holding up the change that's required. I know they changed, like the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Group, where Carrick and Couzens came from.
Well, that did need changing.
They shifted a lot out. So they can do...
But where have they all gone, though? That would be the question. Have they gone to another department? Well, are they out of the force?
Some have gone to other departments. Some are still on suspension. Some have left, but not the rate that you need to reassure people, because the biggest victim out of all of this is the public's trust and confidence. Can they trust that the officer that comes to report an investigation or update? I had 2 guys came round to my house today, 2 young officers, giving an update on someone tried to steal my car. Now, I felt reassured.
Yes, you're one of the lucky ones.
I've met them before. But it was really good to have officers giving me that feedback. How often does that happen?
It hardly ever happens.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Then when you have an officer, can you be totally confident?
No, you're absolutely right. Well, I'll tell you what the worrying thing is about the statistics, however, and just to clarify one point, you can do it anonymously. So even if people make malicious calls, the reality is the majority are not being investigated. So if you're only getting 700 out of 3,000, it means the majority they're not following up on.
Again, as Nusrat was saying, I'll come back to you on this one, Nusrat, transparency is a problem as well, isn't it? Because we don't know who's really looking into these investigations, who's being given the number of man-hours to do so, how many people are being sort of employed to do it, and because inevitably that takes police away from doing the kind of work that Leroy's talking about, where they're actually solving crime.
Absolutely. And one of the things is that it's been operated by, if you like, volunteers. Now, if we look back to the new Met for London and the Casey review, one thing identified was that the Director of Professional Standards, the complaint department, was not fit for purpose. And I totally agree with you there, Graham. Where are these people coming from? They're the same people that were in the Director of Professional Standards that are now investigating and are on this corruption hotline. So if they were not fit for purpose in the first place, how are they now going to be investigating these officers? And it's a triage system. My understanding is a call comes in, the volunteers will look and triage it, and then they will pass on what they think has some credence to the professional standards team. It's still the same thing. You know, what we need, and I'll come back to it, is real reform, radical reform. Bearing in mind that the Metropolitan Police Service at this moment is about 6,000 officers short. So they're not going to get any new person with new ethics coming in. And ethics is the problem. And that has to be the golden thread throughout this. So for me, what I would like to see is the figures for this. At the end of the 728 investigations, I'd like to see some form of, this is how many people we identified, this is what actually happened. Because the public need to have faith, and they're reporting things, but what is going to be the actual outcome and result? And let's be clear here, the internal mechanisms are failing, they've failed, they're not being readdressed. That's what we need to strip back and concentrate on. Good leadership that identifies it, supervisors doing what they're paid to do, and that's supervise people. This problem isn't going to go away by setting up some form of hotline to get the Met off the front pages. And now they've said it's successful, so it's going nationally. I wait to see the outcome and the results of this.
Yes, I think that's a sensible point of view. Leroy, just finally, Nusrat says it's time for radical reform. I mean, can the police reform? I think that's the question.
Well, I think ultimately one Home Secretary or another, maybe not in this government, obviously, but maybe in the next government, will have to look at this, because I really think that they've been talking about reforming the Met for decades.
Yeah.
They've been talking since the last
For as long as I can remember.
Queen's Commission and everything. And I think the Met's too big, especially when you take on their national responsibilities of royalty protection, diplomatic protection, counter-terrorism. So take those things away from it, at least, so that the Commissioner can deal with by far the biggest police service in the country and get into the real minutiae, because, unfortunately, big strap lines, big buzzwords is not going to do it. The toxic culture has to be dealt with once and for all. There has to be great accountability of officers, so that, and especially if whistleblowers speak up, they need to be supported and not ostracised, as we see on a regular basis.
And the public needs to see a difference. Crimestoppers
it needs to be seen to be done, as you say. Leroy, thanks very much indeed. Andrew, we'll see you a bit later on. Nusrat, thank you as well. Very interesting conversation. I'm not sure the police is ever going to reform before I die. We shall see.